Hey everybody, Rachel here from Rachthestamper.com, and today I'm going to show you how to make this pretty cool card. This actually has a lot of different elements to it. This was a sample back when this stamp set first premiered. I feel like it was in the winter catalog, but I could be wrong. But I did a little bit of updating to it, so you might have seen this sample around. I actually used our newer hardwood Design Your Shares paper in the background, and I ran it through the timber embossing folder. So you can see it's got some depth to it. And I did leave this card blank. You can put another tree inside as well. But I left it blank because I wasn't sure what I was going to use it for, which kind of also lends that you can use it for any situation or need that might come up. So I used the deckled circles, and this is actually started in Balmy Blue, and then I stamped over top of it to add some color. And then this, you might be wondering, so this is actually a die. And I don't know if you've ever done this before, and I don't know why it took us as crafters so long to realize that we could do this, because it really does have endless possibilities. But you're actually going to add ink to the die prior to die cutting, and it gives it this layer. And then with the level here, I kind of use that as the base of the mountain, so it kind of looks, does like two-fold work, if you will. And then I originally stamped some trees, and I did the whole big die cut, and I really didn't love it as much, so I ended up going out with the single trees and actually just put adhesive sheet onto the back of Garden Green for those. So I'm going to show you how to make this card. It's not really terrifically complicated, so you can see I cut a lot of them out of here. It's not really very complicated. I can have as many or as few steps as you want. I really wanted to use this large tree, but it kind of didn't fit with the size difference. And I know that like with the mountains and the size of them, I guess it doesn't all really necessarily go together. You probably could put them down a little bit lower, but I thought it was kind of cool. And then what you could do if you wanted to with this large tree, since I already stamped it or already put adhesive sheet on it, I might just put this on the back of the card that we create and put it inside, since it has adhesive on the back of it. So I'm going to show you how to get started. There's the only thing you really need, so this is the piece that it was die cut from, if you can see. So you do need to leave enough at the bottom that you can still die cut it again to fit in your circle. But it's pretty cool techniques for this, I think. Again, I did get this out of the catalog ideas, but you really can kind of make this however you want it to be, because you can make it, I guess, as fancy as you'd like or as unfancy as you'd like, if that were the case. And then this is the other version. So this is the one I created originally, and I just didn't love the trees as much. There was just I love the background, because the way I did this one, I think I might have actually added in some white craft to kind of give like that cloudish illusion, but I just didn't love the trees quite as much. And then down here, I kind of botched up the bottom. So I went and did it over again. So if you like it that way better, you certainly could do it that way, but that's just the way I did it. So to start, let's see, what's the best way to start? We're going to end up embossing this piece of paper. And I'll show you. This is, again, from a new set of paper we have. I feel like it's called Natural Textures. I don't know. I will make sure all of the supplies will be in the description below. But there's a lot of different hardwood. I mean, this would even make a really cool background if you wanted to do it with that one instead. So maybe we'll emboss it and see which one we like better by the time we're finished. This is the Timber 3D embossing folder, so I'm going to need that for later. And I did do a little bit of cutting for a few of these things just to kind of make it a little bit easier. And we're going to be using, I believe it is the fifth. Actually, I think that's 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Ooh, geez. It's the 8th smallest deckled circle. That's a mouthful. I do have some other tree stuff. We may or may not need that. This is going to be the piece that we're going to emboss, and this is our layer. So this is already cut with this one, but we're going to need this for the bottom. Okay, so let's really begin by doing our embossing first. So these are the mountain range. It's a mountain die. And what you're going to do, just move a couple of these things out of the way. I kind of did this because I thought it was easiest this way. I took my pecan pie ink, and then you're going to take just a blending brush. The smaller one tends to work better because it's a little bit smaller. And you're just going to add ink to, and it's only going to add it in certain spots. So if you kind of over ink it, you're saved, because it's only going to hit certain areas. You're just going to add ink to your die, just like that. I'm going to close this for a minute. We are going to need this again, but for right now, we're good. And the only other thing you want to be careful of is this can transfer to what you're die cutting with. So you kind of want to make sure that you wipe this off when you're finished with it, if that makes sense. I'm also going to put this high enough that I will still have a circle space below here, if that makes sense, because you're still going to need to cut this. So you're going to do that second. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and run this through my die cut machine, and what it's going to do is it's going to die cut the mountains, but it's also going to press the ink into the paper. So I'm going to run this through. And I'm just going to lift this up so you can see. So you can see it only really puts ink at certain spots. Now I probably was over inked at the bottom here, which is how I got that line that's there. So what I did, I'm just going to move this out of the way, is I just took what was left on my brush and kind of blended out the bottom just a little bit, just so it kind of gives a little bit of color. Okay, so then what you're going to do, this is just scrap. If you have a bigger piece, I do try to tend to save them. So you want the inside of this to be at the bottom. So now you can decide, do you want the bigger mountain? Do you want the smaller mountain? Do you want some of it cut off? I tend to go with having all three if I can fit it. So I kind of set it in the center. And then if you feel like you have to check, just make sure that the bottom of your ridge is right there. But I'm kind of okay with, even if it's close enough, it's fine. So we're going to just set that in the center. And I'm going to run this through again, and this is going to cut it out the bottom in a circular shape. All right, and then the other thing I did was I just took the bottom of this and I opened my ink pad back up. This was kind of just to give a feeling of depth, and I ran the whole thing so you can see. Hopefully you can see that there. This part has ink, the other part doesn't. I just ran it through so it would have a little bit darker of an edge there. You could also, if you wanted to, since this is still a little bit wet, you can kind of soften the edge a little bit. You could even ink the edge a little bit with your brush. Kind of really what you want it to look like. So we're going to move this off. So we're all finished with the pecan pie. That's a really great color, by the way. I'm going to just wipe this off so I don't goof up anything else that I might be doing. So the other thing we need to do are our trees. So while I have this, I'm going to just grab a few trees. We'll run this through. This already has adhesive sheet on the back, which is great because then you don't have to worry about when you're finished. You're just going to pull them out and they'll stick. So pretty simple. So I kind of tend to go back and forth with these to fit as many in as I can. And I want to run these through twice. So I'm not going to put the other ones on yet. I'm just going to put these through and then we'll do the other set. So I'm going to go back and forth. And when you do these, sometimes they'll end up sticking a little bit. So you can see I didn't have a little bit stuck all the way, but they will be cut all the way when you can tell that they kind of pull straight out, which is makes it very nice. So let's just move these over. And I'm going to just cut just a couple more trees. So I pretty much used this one as much as I could. So I'm just going to grab my other piece and do a couple more trees. I find that if you kind of line them all up this way, you kind of optimize your resources and your space. All right, so that's good. I'm going to just run the same thing. I'm going to go back and forth. And once again, before you move them, you can kind of just pick this up and flip and see. They look like they're all cut. If not, the other thing you can do, since you're right here, is, and I'll just put it this way. Whoops. Actually, they all fell out. What I was going to tell you is if you have one that feels like it's not going to fall out, if you run it through upside down, it really puts more pressure on the top of the die, but we didn't even need to do that. So 2 times was fine. All right, let me move these over. And the only other thing we have to do is emboss. Grab all these, slide them over here. So for this, we are going to emboss. Hopefully y'all still have this. This is, if this is the machine that you have anyway. This is the blue plate. The blue plate special because it's bigger. It's Stampin' Up. It's not CXCCBYET. So once they moved on to this, you're going to use just the blue plate. So we're going to switch it. We'll see what we think it looks like in the background with this. We can always flip it over. It'll just be embossed instead of debossed. You want to feed it in so the part that is solid is going in. That way it's pressing the air out. And since we're going to do this, the other thing we could do, just if we wanted to make it a little dirtier, is to add a little bit, I shouldn't say dirty, a little bit more aged. You could add a little bit of whatever the ink is that you have left over here. Kind of dirty it up a little bit. Give it more of that like a vintage feel. So you could do that. We'll see. We'll see which one looks better once we get situated. So I think that is it. Now the only other thing we have to do is the stamping, and that's going to be on here. Get all these out of the way, and I'm going to move this. And I'm just taking, this is my mat. This mat is from Waffle Flower. I do believe it is back in stock. I am not affiliated with Waffle Flower. I just think this is a super amazing product. So if this is something you think you would want to do, and I want to bring this over so you can see it. It's great because it's like stamping on a base. It really has a lot of give, and it's just makes stamping so much more pleasurable. I know that sounds absolutely ridiculous, but unless you use it, it's just hard to understand. It really makes stamping so much easier. So I have my moon and stars, and then these could be snow, whatever. I'm doing them as stars. That's what I'm going for. So I have Azure Afternoon, and then I also have Balmy Blue. So Azure is going to be the darker one, so I'm going to go ahead and just stamp the stars, my faux stars, kind of all over in Balmy, like that. And you are going to need to add a little bit of ink to this. So this is the part where, here's what we're going to do. We're going to add the ink first. So I just have a blue brush. It probably has one of these 2 colors on it. And I know this is a little bit wet, so I'm going to just ink this up. And I'm just going to touch off a little bit and then kind of add it over. Again, if you don't want to have this many stars, you certainly could leave it. And then the other thing you could do if you wanted to, now I will tell you this, if this is something that you're going to do with the white ink, you have to have a brush that's just white because it is difficult to get the white fully out. So let's see, do I even have something that may be white? You know what I think I did last time? I feel like I did a color and then it ended up coming out into this. I feel like I did like one of my cheaper brushes in a blue, and then it kind of got a little bit stained. I bet you this is it. This is it because it's got still white pigment on it. So I'm going to just pick up a little bit, and you can see it still was transferring there. So you really want to be careful with this. Keep it off to one side. And I'm going to just kind of pounce and then spread. I kind of just want like something that looks like a night cloud. You know, occasionally you can see those. So if you keep blending, it will blend it out. And this will be the perfect spot where we can put our moon. So I'm going to mark this. This is going to just be my Forever White blending brush. I'm going to need to thoroughly clean it to get the white and whatever that other pigment is, but that's what I'm going to go with. And then I'm going to add my stars, moon, etc. in Azure. So you can see it's still a little bit lighter. It's not super dark because we had the white there, but also just the way that ink is. So the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this circle. And just like we did with the pecan pie, I'm going to just roll it. Now, there could be more of this depending on how we lay it. So I'm going to make sure I really get the edge. Probably farther down than I would have because it's not going to go all the way to the bottom, but I went around just in case. All right, so move this. And I think that's it for now. So when you end up putting these together, and I am going to put my cover on, that's what it's going to look like. So pretty cool. All right, I just want to wipe this off really quickly before I put my cover back on it. This does stain, this mat here, you can see. It stains more so with alcohol markers or Stampin' Blends, but it does stain. It does not affect it. It still works great. You can wash it off with soap and water if it loses its stickiness, and it pretty much comes right back to the way it was. So it's definitely a very cool product if you're looking for something. So now the only thing we really have left to do is to figure out what in the world did I do with my trees. It'll be around here somewhere. Oh, right here. So we just have to figure out what trees we want to use. So maybe this is a little too big and it could be in the forefront because it's so large, and we could put smaller ones in the background. That's a great idea. I kind of want to try to keep the moon where it is. The other thing you could do is you could add a little bit of Wink of Stella if you wanted to the background, to the moon, etc. So we're just going to kind of eyeball, and we will put this. So this one needs to come up just a little bit to be seen. And if it goes off, like off the top, remember, you're fine, because as long as you're going to stay in your frame there, you're okay. And let's see what this would look like. This would probably be just a little, I don't know, it might be okay. Well, only one way to find out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by just gently pulling these. I'm going to pull the backing off. I'm going to stick them on. I'm not going to stick them on super because I want to try to be able to fool with where they are in case I have to move them. This one needs to go up a little higher than I think. This one's going to come off of the top just slightly. We can always press it onto the background, no biggie. Oh, one thing I did forget, and I should have done this ahead of time. This was another thing that I did, is I actually just took, I'm just going to use whatever I have on this brush. I just brushed over these just a little bit with Garden Green. I totally forgot to say that ahead of time. I don't know if I'll be able to do it on these other guys now. Let's see, where's a little scrap? I don't want to lift that thing back off. But what I did is I just took my Garden Green and I kind of just really hit the edges. Not sure if I could do this without, I don't want to mess up the inking or the stickiness, so I'll just do just a little bit. May or may not even be able to see that on there. I'm going to do this one a little bit too. Just going to have green fingers. So it kind of gives a little bit, just a little bit more depth. Just like that. Okay, with this. I think we said this one was over here. All right, let me just lay this and see. That's not so bad. I want to move this guy up just a smidge and in. Looks pretty good. So I'm going to just give these a press. This guy, I wish I could have gotten a little bit in. That's good enough. And I'm going to just do this one. If we're going to put this on the front, we're going to see if we can just add just a little bit. You could also use a much darker if you wanted to do shaded spruce. It would definitely make it pop much more. And with this, I originally toyed with putting dimensionals, but I kind of wanted to just leave it as it was. So we're going to do that for now. I'm going to just grab my liquid glue. I don't know if any of you have done this, but I'm not quite sure what I did to my original liquid glue pin here that comes in the Barely Art, but I did something to it when I forced it in, and it's kind of a little bit gunked up. and it's crooked because I was forcing it instead of taking the minute to clean it. So what I've been doing is I kind of stick this in. This is actually a floral pin, and I'm hoping that if I pull this out, but I need to find another pin. The other problem is because this is a floral pin, and I guess the pin that they send you with the Barely Art is maybe galvanized. I'm not really sure. It's like giving me slightly tinged ink. So if you have found a replacement, because now I have my other glue bottle here that is always giving me a hard time. I love that Barely glue. I'm really sad that I didn't take the time and I bent up the little pin that went in to keep it open, because that's super irritating. Because obviously it is a very special type of pin, because every time I put this other pin in, it's definitely much shorter, but the other problem is it's rusting, I guess, the pin, so the ink gets, like, you can see it's got like a tinge to it. I mean, no one will know but me, but it's also just kind of a pain because now I can't get the, whoops, I can't get it to work the way I want it to. Put that on there correctly. So this is the key, when you kind of sit it where you want to put it, and then just line up the bottom as best you can, and then just give it a good press, and then we'll see what we think. I think that could probably be cute, so maybe we'll fit that in the background there. But anyway, my Barely pin is really, really, really gunky, and it's also bent, so I can no longer put it in there straight because I have bent it beyond recognition, which is super annoying. But you know, sometimes, does anybody else have one of those people, or maybe themselves are the person that is the force it, doesn't go force it? Yeah, so did that one to myself. All right, so let's try turning this over. We'll see what we think about what this looks like. I think it's okay, but it doesn't really do anything for the card to have it this way, so I'm going to go back to this direction. I think this is a little bit nicer. So we're going to go back to this. Let's see if I can get, what I should probably do is find out, I know we have, this is, maybe you have one of these, and this would be nice. When I first got this, actually, my friend Donna sent this to me, and when I first got the Barely Art, it came with these different things that you can use for different tips, because you can cap it, I guess, if you want to. You can use different types of tips on it. So I wonder if maybe swapping it to a different tip will work. Let's see if this will get me some glue. Either that, or I have just like such a serious clog in there, which could very well be. I do like the fact that it comes with these different heads. Yeah, mine is just gunked beyond recognition. Also, real quick, I got this as a refill, which is super cool. This is a lot. Definitely much more in there that is going to need to be in there. All right, well, I might have to resort, because my other one is empty, I'm going to have to resort to Stampin' Seal Plus, which, you know, is definitely not my favorite, especially for card stock that's textured. I think I pressed too hard. I think that's part of the other problem that I have. I don't know. This is like the video of adhesives gone wrong, is what we should call this one. Let's see if I can get enough out of this. Luckily, there won't be too much more, because I'm going to end up popping the other thing up with dimensionals. Here, I have one other glue I think I can use here. This one is something that's a fine, probably like my fine tip glue. I can't even fit that little sucker in there. I had tried to do that one too, but that didn't work. How many different types of adhesive do you have to use to get one card to work? That should be a poll. A poll for whatever you have to do, because when you have a lot of, especially a lot of different adhesives on a thinner piece of cardstock, hopefully it won't end up getting lumpy. All right, so that's what we got for now. This one's clearly garbage, so I need to just be at peace with it and throw it away. And I'm going to use the remnants of my fine tip glue pen that I put into a different bottle. And we're going to put that on here because I don't want to pop that up since I have this extra tree that I'm going to try to fit in there. Okay, that looks good. If we do this other tree, what if we do it right there? We'll see what that looks like. Hopefully it'll look good because at this point there's no turning back. I'm going to have to contact the berry glue people and ask them if they can send me another pin. Maybe there's a pin reorder system that I can get into. Now, since this tree is just kind of sitting here floating out on itself, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my crumb cake marker and I'm going to use the brush tip and I'm going to kind of just make almost like a little mound that it was sitting on, if you will. So I kind of just added that, and then I'm going to take, here's my brown, and I'm going to just a little bit of shading. So, wow, that took a really long time to get there, and it's mostly wasn't even anything to do with me and my production today. It had to do with my glue mishaps. So I'm gonna have to go, I'm gonna go clean this. That way I can get all this stuff back together, and maybe it will work properly. I guess time will tell. I want to thank you so much for joining me today. If you learned anything from me, hopefully it was how to not clog up your glue and to make sure that if something is clogged that you go to the sink to clean it instead of trying to force it in. This is a really, really adorable card. I really like the design because the background, again, you could change that to pretty much any DSP. I just used a newer one because I thought it was kind of fun to be able to do that. I do still have a tree, so I think I'm going to put one of these on the inside. I didn't put one on my original. Remember I said I was going to do the big one, but I feel like it's a little too big. So I'm going to put this one, and then I have my other card piece, but since I'm kind of out of glue, we'll just have to set it there and put it in so it looks nice. But just like a little nice tree on the inside will look good. So that will be one. And then for this other one, here is my white panel. And we're going to pretend like that's in there the way it's supposed to be. And I'm going to put a taller tree. But we'll just put this one on the opposite side. Just like so. And then same thing again. You can always take with these, because they are both significantly lighter since they're sitting on white. You could even take your soft sea foam and just give just a little bit of something that these trees are sitting on, just so they're not floating out in the middle of whatever it may be. It doesn't have to be anything massive. And then we could take our green. I'm going to use this one since it's not in here, and just lightly make a little, so it's kind of like a little mound that it's sitting on there. Do the same for this one. Kind of just makes it just a little bit finished of something. And with this card, the version that they gave, they actually used this as a Christmas, and it had a tag with warm winter wishes, which I think would be great. But this would be a great Father's Day card, thinking of you, sympathy. Maybe you have someone who's moving out west, or somebody who's going on like some sort of a travel trek. I know that when I was growing up and in high school, and back then, geez, it was such a long time ago now that I think about it, people were doing things where they were like going backpacking across Europe. Do people even do that anymore? I don't know. I think that would probably be pretty fun if you did, but I don't know if that's still a thing. But if you have somebody that you know is going out on some kind of exciting adventure, this would be a great card to send them a little something to get them on their way. Thank you so very much for watching. All of the supplies and everything that I used today will be listed below in this video. If you'd like to get any of the measurements, including the size that I used for even the circle to die cut everything, all of that will be in the blog description, which also, if you click the link down there, you can find that and it'll take you directly to the blog. There'll be pictures of this a little bit more up close so you can see stuff. Really cool too. So just in case you've never done that before, you just add ink. Now, it only works if you have dies that have multiple layers. So you can see that it took the ink from the mountain caps. So I think this would be really cool. And I was thinking about this probably when I was falling asleep one night this week. This would be great to do for a mountain range if you wanted to do snow-capped mountains. So then in that case, you could just use your white ink, which is another reason I need to go clean this brush. So I can try that again, maybe on navy or in misty moonlight would be really pretty. But I want to thank you so much for joining me today. If you haven't already, I would love for you to subscribe. All you have to do is click the subscribe button, turn on the bell for notifications. Other free ways to support me are to leave a comment, like, share, subscribe. Send this to someone you think would enjoy it. I want to thank you so very much for watching today. If you are having a very, very long wish list, we have a great promotion that's running through the end of May. You get all of the new INKED markers. You get the new INKED ink pads, the 6x6 DSP, and a paper pack, and that's included with the 125 for $99 awesome offer that we always have that has free shipping. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day.